Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today I'm taking a look at another play written by Shakespeare that I read in 10th grade. It was the second play that I read by him. It's called Macbeth, and I'm going to be doing a horror take of it. As a reminder, I'm not a trained scholar in Shakespeare or an actor or even an English major, right? I'm just a horror fan and a fantasy fan too, so I did a fantasy review of the first two stories, and now I'm going to be doing a horror fan review of this just to see where I stand with it. I just finished it in a couple of days. It's 5 acts long like the previous two, but those two were 9 scenes each, Midsummer Night's Dream and Tempest. So I read them in 3 days each, of about 3 scenes each day for about an hour each day, roughly. But this one is about 20 pages longer, and each one act is like 6 scenes, right? It's definitely broken up into smaller acts, smaller scenes rather, that are very, very fast and easy to read. So it takes about an hour each act, roughly. So I spent about 2.5 hours roughly across 3 days reading this. And so I think you can definitely, if you did it in half an hour, for example, with one act, you could do it definitely in a lunch period or something, in your half-hour lunch period, and read it in a week in case you never read it. Now, unlike my other reviews, this is a spoiler review, just as a heads up, because everybody's heard of Macbeth, or they've read Macbeth, or they've seen Macbeth, or 2 or 3. It's not mutually exclusive, right? So I don't think there are things in here. So I will be doing a brief synopsis. Now I have written down my notes on 22-point font that I take here on my phone, just as a heads up. So if you see me looking down at my phone, that's because I am referring to it and so forth. This is an absolute classic, and I'm going to be giving a 10 out of 10 to it, folks. So let's start with a brief synopsis, all right? After a big battle that's just happened, the 3 witches appear to Macbeth and Banquo at their area, and they predict that Macbeth will be king, and Banquo's children will be king too, of Scotland, where they're currently at. So Macbeth lets his wife know in a letter, and his wife supports it, and she tries to make him the king of Scotland by killing Duncan after he decides to stay in Macbeth's home for a few days after the big giant battle where Macbeth got promoted to a new title that was not in his current issue that the witches had also predicted. So he felt that since the witches had predicted that accurately, and thus, and he just named his son Malcolm his heir. All right, so Macbeth does kill the king with his wife, and his wife takes care of the bloody knives and swords that was used. So he does follow his wife's advice, even though he was facilitating it for a while. And then the children of the king believe that they're going to be next, and so they decide to flee. One goes to England, and the other goes to Ireland. So they are out of the picture, and so forth. People believe that because they were guilty, they fled. And Macbeth kills those that are responsible, like the guards and such, that allowed it to happen, in what he calls an angry fit of justice and rage and such, that everybody would respect. But obviously he's clearly, for us as the audience, we know that he is concealing his tracks, right? And he's doing it in order to remove witnesses. And the fact that the kids have fled have definitely sort of made him seem like he's the better guy. So Macbeth takes over the kingship, and then Banquo, in the beginning of Act 3, we realize that he's the only person who suspects that Macbeth has done this, and then Macbeth remembers the witches' prophecy of his children ruling. So he sends 3 murderers out to kill him in the streets, and they kill Banquo, but his child flees the scene and will survive. So that begins it. And then Macbeth is having a feast after the death of Banquo and the death of Duncan that day, as a sort of like an homage, as a way to sort of pay your respects and such. And he sees Banquo as a ghost, and he's the only one sees Banquo's ghost, and he starts to talk about it and says things like, "Don't you guys see it?" And this is at the feast proper, and then you can see some of it. His wife says, "Oh, he's just like that all the time, doing no attendance. Just don't worry about it." And she tries to play interference for him, such. So Macbeth then visits the witches again, and they summon 3 lying apparitions, each one more powerful than the previous one. And they also confirm that Banquo's kids will be king and will inherit the earth. Lady Macbeth is racked with guilt and is taken over with sleepwalking at night, and her conscience is resuming things with her famous speech, out, damned spot of speech. And she's definitely racked with guilt, and she'll actually commit suicide in Act 5. And then a powerful Macduff joins the resistance against Macbeth after Macbeth kills his wife and his kid. He's not gonna go back. He's gonna take this personally now, although he didn't know when he fled. Macbeth found out that he had fled, and so he wanted to kill everything in order to punish him. So that's basically what's happening. And now Macduff is going to join, the King Duncan's son, and they're going to start a resistance and such. And then we find out that Macduff is not born of a son. I'm sorry, not born of a daughter. He was actually pulled from her womb. So he is somebody who actually can kill Macbeth, even though Macbeth is told that no man born of a woman can kill you. And then he finds out that he actually isn't born of a woman. He was pulled from her. I guess you would call it a C-section, and not from her womb. And so he is eligible to kill him, and does, and then restores peace to the kingdom. So that's the play. Thus, now this is a play of Scotland. King James had just become king at this time, and so his Scottish background, in fact, he's been a Scottish king, are hugely influential. You can definitely tell the interest at that time in Scotland. King James also is funding Shakespeare's company at this time, and the two of them are friends. And you can see the Scottish influence and King James' influence in it. For example, James felt that treason and witchcraft were related, and Shakespeare felt the same. You can definitely see that as Macbeth turns from a good hero into a bad person based on his interaction with witches, right? And that turns him into a treasonous way. So he thinks that those two are related too, and you can definitely see that with Macbeth proper and such. Now, I think that this is a tragic hero, not a sort of anti-hero that's a more modern interpretations and audiences or other things that I have seen. I stick with the first one. For example, in the first act and so forth, they say that Macbeth would never do anything bad. He treats everybody with respect. He's a good guy and so forth. Then he does one bad thing, and then he suffers massive consequences for it. And then he has to do more and more bad things in order to keep getting caught up. He summons more witches, including their master Hecate that they serve, and goes back to him, kills. After killing Duncan, he kills Banquo, tries to kill Banquo's son. But he's told to fear Macduff in the first apparition, so he goes and attacks Macduff, and Macduff and kids and such. Kills his wife, kills the kids. Right, he's definitely moving into more and more of a darker area. I don't see him as this. I see him more of as a tragic hero that did a bad thing and now is fallen. All right, I see that. Right. All right, so let's take a look at the horror stuff and the horror interpretations. First of all, so just a heads up, one of the 3 things, and this is more of a fantasy interpretation first, before we get into more of the horror stuff, is that there is a line that says that Macbeth and his kingdom won't fall until Burnham Wood do come to Duncanshire. This is where Tolkien got his idea of the forest of the trees of Fangor moving. And in Lord of the Rings centuries later, it's possible. I'm sure that he would have been familiar with this line and this idea of a forest actually coming alive and moving to a different place, right? And then we find out that it actually happens when a messenger tells him that the wood of Burnham Wood has actually moved to his home. So he's like, wait, what? And that sort of puts him in that state of mind. That stuff is about to happen. Right, so I think that might be where it's coming from. So there's basically 2 ways I think you can interpret Macbeth from a horror perspective. The first is a sort of a psychological horror, if you will, where nothing magical or gothic is happening. It's all in the character's mind, if you will. Kind of like Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, where the evil, guilty conscience of Macbeth and his wife are coming out, and that's why he's saying Banquo's ghost, and that's why all these other things are happening too, right? And this is his own guilty conscience coming out, as well as in his wife. And again, the classic line out, "Dan spot I see," is definitely a classic part of that. Out I say, Lady Macbeth also kills herself to absolve herself, which helps to sort of back up this idea of the guilty conscience, right? Her own suicide. And then there's also the Gothic horror interpretation too, that this is actually happening. Macbeth's ghost really does try to vengeance itself on Macbeth after killing him, and then keeps leaving and coming back. We actually see it on the stages and as the play, so you kind of will see it too. So is this what we're seeing, actually happening too, right? And so I think that's an actual interpretation. This is happening, and so forth. And there's a line by the preacher the doctor rather, in Act 5, after he sees Lady Macbeth doing some of her things, trying her guilty sleepwalking, and he says, "Unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles." Unnatural troubles, right? It seems to say that your witchcrafty things are leading to witchcrafty results, right? So I think that's definitely an opportunity as a way to see that as horror rather than psychological. So it could be either, right? And it's kind of like Donnie Darko. It could be madness. It could be science fiction. Who knows, right? So I think that's good stuff. So also the 3 prophesizing witches here definitely seem like they could be Greek fakes, or also have made many appearances for even Dungeons and Dragons, like into the Maelstrom, the module and such. And then finally, please note that the classic idea here of fate can be overturned by free will, that we have free will, but then that free will to try to change our fate actually makes the fate happen in the first place. Kind of like some of the Greek tragedies. It's definitely here too. Underpins this whole conversation, because that's what happens with Macbeth. He tries to make things not happen, and then he causes them to happen, right? So there you are. So I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read this? If so, what'd you think about it? Did you agree or disagree with my 10 out of 10? If so, let's talk about it in the comments below. I'll link you to it online for purchasing. I read it online on the Royal Shakespeare thing. And then finally, if you like this, why not hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon if you're feeling frisky, and then also let your friends know too. And then finally, I just want to pause and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing in me and watching my video, because we all have so many things that are happening, right, in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.